All right, so we ended here. I'm going to I'm going to continue to write on number 9, and then I'll do number 9 down below, I think. So we did elimination on this one, which you could do substitution. Personally, I think elimination, this is set up nicely for it. I think it would make it way easier. So as we went through this, we got that P equals 225. That means that the pizza slice is equal to 225. And I realize that some of you may have gotten this right by your guess and check, and you were honest with me about it being guess and check, so thank you for that. But we could write these questions where it's way harder to do guess and check, so we want to know what we're doing. So then I'm going to take this P, and I'm going to substitute it back into one of the original equations. Okay, so I think I would rather use the even numbers than the odd numbers personally. So I think we'll put it in there. So I'm going to do 2 times 2.25 plus 4 times S equals 850. All right. So what's 2 times 2 point, and always think it's money anyway. You have $2.25 and you double it. What do you have? $4.50. Thank you for participating. So this becomes 450, which I could rewrite it, but and then I'm going to subtract 450 from both sides, so I get 4S equals $4 because 850 minus 450 is $4, so S equals 1. So these are the 2 pieces I need, and you definitely didn't have enough room to write. And it said 1 slice of pizza and 3 sodas, so I need to do 1 slice of pizza. 1 times 2.25 plus 3 times 1. These weren't even complicated numbers, right? So that's going to be your 525, which was B. And like I said, I know I went through that as a system. It's kind of quick, and I know we needed some more work on those. We'll do some more, but there's no need in like taking forever here, especially when there's no room to write. But for sure systems, we are going to go back and focus on. Okay, so then y'all show me your lights for number 9. It's red, white, blue, green. Remember, if you have more than one answer at your table, light up all the lights for me. What do we got going on here? Green, we're all green. Okay, let's see if green is correct. And I'm going to do this down here. So if this is true, then I want 24C. I can't really read that. So what should I do here first? What should I do with this? Should I solve it maybe? Yes? Are y'all awake? Okay. So I'm going to add 2 to both sides and subtract 3C from both sides. So I get 2C equals 2. You good with that? So what does C equal? 1. And this question becomes pretty simple, right? But let's say that 2C equaled 17, or something we couldn't divide by 2, or 2C equals a monkey, or something like that. Do I really have to get all the way down to C? I don't. I could do like a proportion, right? Like 2C over 2 equals 24C over X, or whatever. And since it's 2C, I can just 24 divided by 2C is going to be 12, so I can multiply that by 12. Either way, you get 24. I mean, in here, it's like I said, it's easy to get to C, and all is good, but you need to think about other ways to handle those things sometimes. Okay, let's see if I'm really making all this confusing now, because this goes up here. I promise in the future to make this better where you actually have room to work. I don't know what I was thinking. All right. Show me 10. What you got for 10? Show me your lights. You just guessed. Okay. Okay. I got C and D. Honestly, I guessed. Okay, that's what I heard that from a few people. This was a guess for a lot of people. Okay. So in the XY plane, okay, no big deal, right? XY, that's the plane we've been using, not trying to make things complicated. The slope of the line, y equals mx minus 4, is less than this slope, okay? Which of the following must be true about m? Okay, so what is the slope of this line? Okay, I heard mx minus 4, mx. Anybody else want to give me something else? Okay. Little side note here. Y equals mx plus b, right? Old news, yes? This represents my what? Y-intercept. And this represents my slope. So that's something that I hear a lot with the slope. You try and put the x on it. The x doesn't go with it. So the slope of this line, given how it is m. You with me on that? We good on that? So what is the slope of this line? This one. That's okay. This one. 1. It's just like a hidden one, right? So I have m and I have 1. And it says the slope of this line is less than the slope of this line. M is less than 1. Let's see. To me, this is one of those that's so easy that it's confusing. You with me? I think that that's why y'all had to guess, and you're like, I don't know, it's asking me this. It sounds like it's speaking a different language. It's really just trying to get you to identify slope. Okay? We okay with that? If we guessed, did we at least guess right? Oh, well, that's something. All right, is that only because you picked C and you think you're supposed to pick C? That's a falsehood, by the way. You know that, right? C is not necessarily the most popular answer. Well, when in doubt, choose the same letter. So like I would say, pick your favorite letter. If you don't have a clue and you're going to guess, and the first one you guess A, and you can't eliminate anything, always guess. You guess the same one every time. That's what actually helps your probability of getting stuff right. All right, let me see your lights for 11. Let me know if you feel like you pretty much just guessed. You didn't even put nothing. Oh, my goodness. Okay, this is where it started. Okay. All right, I got a couple of things. Now, on this one does actually require a calculator that require. I guess it doesn't require one. It would make your life a whole lot easier. I used one. So a history class is made up of 12 10th graders and 9 11th graders. The 10th graders averaged 77 on the midterm exam. The 11th graders averaged 91 on the midterm exam. What was the average grade on the midterm exam for the entire class? Okay, so if you just average, somebody tell me, if I just average 77 and 91, does anybody have their calculator with them? 77 plus 91, 168 divided by 2. I get 84, okay? Do you think that's all I should do is just average those two numbers? What do you think? Yes or no? No, probably not, right? So I get 84. So I'm actually thinking 84 is probably not the answer. We can't do it that way. In order to find an average, if I graded this and I wanted to find the average grade for the class, very basically, what would I do? Add them all up and do what? Divide by how many people there are, right? So the way they got 77 was to add up all the 10th graders. So they added up all of the 10th graders' grades and they divided by 12. And they got 77. So if I wanted to undo that and know what the total was for them, I would need to do 12 times 77. Right? And that would give me what the total was before I divided. Now, I'm not going to know whose each individual score is, but I don't care. And then for the 11th graders, it was 91. There was 9 11th graders. So if I add that to 9 times 91, is that right? My numbers are right. If I add that up, that gives me the total of everybody's grade. Does that make sense to you? That's everybody's. So then if I want the actual average for the entire class, what would I divide that by? 21, because there are 21 students, 12 plus 9, and I get 21 right there. And so when you actually do that, I know y'all can push buttons on the calculator, you end up getting 80. Yeah, so close. Yeah, because 84 is a good estimate. And honestly, the answer, maybe was 84, depending on how the numbers fall out, but that's not how you find it, okay? What questions you got? You understand how to undo averages? Okay. All righty. 12. Let me see 12. Okay. All right. Which of the following is not equivalent? All righty. So I think we all had read, right? But I think some of us also didn't get these answered. So again, I don't know if that's because you didn't get to it or because you weren't sure what to do. But which of the following is not equivalent? So we do need to know how to multiply these, okay? And there's a couple of different ways to do it. One way, anybody still multiply those using the box method? Do you even know what the box method is? Do you still use it? No, but you, okay, that's okay. Because I was going to say, if you don't use it, that's good. I mean, box method is kind of how you learn, but you can do distribution, which means I can take the 3x and distribute it to these two, and then I can take the negative 12 and distribute it, and that's basically what's happening here, okay? And some teachers teach it by distribution, and that is what this is right here, so that's not my answer because it says not equivalent. We okay with that one? All right, so another way to do it is to FOIL. Have we heard FOIL? Yes, okay. And you know what's funny is like FOIL's like the old school. That's what I learned way back in the Stone Ages. And then when I started teaching, there was all these different cutesy ways to do everything. And there was little boxes and there was big boxes. There's all this stuff. And we've gone back to FOIL because it just makes the most sense. So we multiply the first two. So that gives me 3x squared. The outside two, that gives me a positive 12x. The inside two, negative 12x. And the last two, negative 48. Okay, so then when I combine those, these zero out, right? So I get 3x squared minus 48. So that's this, so that's also not my answer, right? I can factor out a GCF of 3. That's where I get B from. But when I factor it out, I don't get this middle term. That doesn't just magically appear, so the answer is not A. Oh, I mean, the answer is A. Shoot. It is not the same, so the answer is A. Okay, yeah. Got it backwards in my own brain. Everybody okay with that one? Awesome. All right. Oh, the old carpeting the floor junior high question here. Let's see. 13. Let me see your numbers, or your lights. Your numbers, your letters, your lights, whatever. He's like, I'm busy filling out my chart. It's all good. Okay, perfect. All right. So the cost of carpeting a floor is, and this is actually something we will talk about. I know this, hopefully this question seems pretty simple, but the order in which you do things is important here. So the cost of the carpeting the floor is $2.50 per square foot. How much will it cost to carpet a rectangular floor that is 10 feet by 12 feet? Okay. So what I can't do is I can't take 250 times 10 and 250 times 12 and then multiply them together. I wouldn't multiply 10 by 250 for any reason because this is feet and this is square feet. And that's where these questions can sometimes come and be a little bit weird and difficult. But this one, if I just multiply these two, I get 120 square feet, right? And it's 250 per square foot. So if I multiply 250 by 120, I get 300, so good job. And so here's the deal with the TSIA also. These questions I got from College Board, because like I said, College Board is in charge of that. These are literally the only practice questions College Board gives you. And you can't find a released exam. You can't find really anything. There's practice resources out there, but that doesn't mean these people got it from the real test. So whether or not some of these questions, I think some of them are probably literally that easy, but not all of them, and we need to make sure we can build from that, okay? So hopefully we can get through some of those easy ones. All right. N is the least of two consecutive odd integers. N is the least of two consecutive odd integers. Which of the following represents the sum of the two integers? I like questions like this, but I know they all don't. Let me see your lights, all of them. You guessed? Did we all guess? Okay. So let's talk about consecutive integers, okay? A consecutive means one right after another. 4 and 5 are consecutive integers, right? If I want consecutive odd integers, that's 5 and 7, or 11 and 13, right? They're the closest to each other. So if I have n, and then I have the next odd integer would be n plus what? Okay. If n is an odd integer, right? N is any odd integer. Pick an odd number in your head. Okay? You got it? Everybody got an odd number in their head? The next odd number after that, what would I have to add to your original number to get to that next number? 2. Okay? So whatever it is, we have n, and we have n plus 2, right? Because if I was to list out numbers, I'd have n plus 1, n plus 2, n plus 3, n plus 4, right? I know the whole odd thing is like, how do I know it's odd? Well, because we said it's odd, and that is one of those weird things. But and it says n is the least of 2 odd integers. N is an odd integer. This is the next one. The sum of the two means that we add them together. And that gives me 2n plus 2. So once you understand what it's asking, it's kind of super easy, right? But if you don't understand what it's asking and how to think about it, it's very difficult and you end up guessing, and I get that. Okay? So even if I change this odd to even, it would be exactly the same thing. Right? Exactly the same thing. Everybody okay with that? What questions you got? All right. Now, why this says graphing, I have no idea, because 15, to me, really doesn't have anything to do with graphing. I mean, I guess it could, but I don't know why. So, but let me see your lights for 15. Okay. Okay, so these are exponent rules. Now, if what I'm about to do, you're like, what the heck just happened and I don't know those rules, then exponent rules is something that you want to write on the back. I'm just telling you so that I can kind of look at that too. All right, let's work from the inside out here. If I have a negative exponent, what does that do to my variable? It flips it, okay? So let's think about this in general before we talk about that. If I have 2 to the negative 1 power, that becomes 1/2, okay? Just talk about numbers, no variables, so your brain isn't going to explode. If I have 2 to the negative 1 power over x, I could change the 2 to a 1/2, right? But then I have a fraction and a fraction, then sometimes your mind shuts down. If you already have a fraction, and let's put this, let me do it this way. If you already have a fraction, then you can just move where it is. Since it's in the numerator, it's going to move to the denominator. And if it's in the denominator, it moves to the numerator, okay? It does flip it. It does give you the reciprocal, but this kind of keeps you from getting a fraction and a fraction. We get to just move it. We all okay with that? So I'm going to work from the inside out so I don't lose anybody. So I'm going to leave these big parentheses with a negative 1 out here. Boom. Now, that x is to the negative 5th power, and it's in the numerator. So he moves down here, and it's a positive 5th power. The y in the numerator is just still a plain old y, and the y in the denominator is y cubed. He didn't go anywhere. Everybody with me so far? Okay, I'm not skipping any steps. Could you do more than one step at a time? Yes, but I don't want to lose anybody because I don't know where we all are. Now, still looking at the inside, can I reduce this sum? Like, I only have x's in the bottom, so the x, he's got to stay. Let me do this. He's got to stay in the bottom. But I can get rid of the y. This y will cancel out with one of those, so that makes it y squared. And then I have a 1 right here. We good? I got rid of all the negatives on the inside. Now this negative 1 on the outside, this time instead of moving, it is an actual fraction. I'm going to flip it, and I'm going to get x to the 5th y squared, which is c. Or if it had y squared x to the 5th, it'd be the same thing, okay? So if exponent rules is something that we're not quite sure of, that's okay. Write it down. Or you can kind of put exponent rules with a straight, like, maybe it's not like terrible, but I don't know. We'll figure out how to figure all that out too. Because some of you might need a lot of help, some of you might need a little help, some of you might not need any. We'll figure that out too. All right, 16. Oof. Probability. I have a feeling probability and statistics is something we might need to all kind of discuss as well. Because it's on the TSIA, it is on the SAT. I don't think it's really in college algebra, but remember, we're also going to work so that you can improve your SAT scores, okay? All right, let me see your lights for 16. If you got nothing, okay. We got blanks here. Basically, I just need to help you with this question. Okay, that's fine. All right, so Raina has 5 coins worth 10 cents each, 4 coins worth 25 cents each. So here's what I'm going to do. Because the 10 and the 25 right now, I'm going to call them dimes and quarters so that I don't have too many numbers there, okay? So I have 5 dimes, right? And I have 4 quarters. I wouldn't necessarily have to do this, but to me that kind of helps because I got this 10 and 25 and whatever. All right. If she chooses 2 of these coins at random, what is the probability that the 2 coins combined will be worth at least 35 cents? Okay? So there's different ways to do this, but one of the things you can do with probability is if it says at least, sometimes it's easier to figure out what the probability is of that not happening and then going from there. The only way I can get something where it is not at least 25 cents or 35 cents is if I pick 2 dimes. You agree with that? So I'm going to figure out what is the probability of getting 2 dimes. You with me on that? All right, so I have, before I even start, I have how many total coins? 9. I have 9 coins. And I'm trying to figure out the probability of getting 2 dimes so that I can then go from there. How many dimes do I have? 5, right? So I have a 5 out of 9 chance of getting a dime. Because I just picked a dime, I picked a coin, I only have 8 left. How many dimes would I have left if I picked a dime? 4. Okay? Everybody with me so far? You're going to pick 2 things and then we multiply them. Okay? Because I'm going to multiply, and I don't want anybody's brain to explode here, I'm going to reduce my fraction first. Like, I can multiply straight across and get 20 over 72, but then I got to reduce that mess, right? Can I go ahead and reduce 4/8? I can reduce that to 1/2, right? Then I can multiply straight across, and I get 5 over 18. All right? Everybody with me on that? Now, that's the probability of picking 2 dimes, where that means this is what is not happening. If you have the probability of something not happening and you want the probability of it happening, you just subtract it from 1. So 1 minus 5 over 18, what would that leave me with? How many 18ths is 1? 1 would be 18 18ths, right? 18 minus 5 would be 13 18ths. That is my probability. So if you're sitting there and saying, what? I would never be able to do that again. Put probability on the back. And let's talk about that too. Okay? Because, again, that is TSI and SAT material. I'm 99% sure I'm going to have to go back and look at stuff. It's not actually in college algebra, but we need to get through the SAT and the TSIA first. Any questions except what the heck did you just do? Because if that's the question, we'll talk about some more, but to clarify any here. Okay. All right, let me see your lights for 17. Just turn it on. Just turn it on. Okay, so all the lights basically means we have no idea, right? Is that what I'm getting here? Okay, I want the y-intercept. So let's just talk in general about the y-intercept. If I have a graph And I have a point right here, all right, which I can't make actual circles on here very easily. And I have a point right here. This is my x-intercept. This is my y-intercept, yes? Okay, so these ordered pairs, this has an x value because I'd go to the right whatever the x value is, but I'm not going up or down any, so that is 0. This has a y value, but I don't go left or right, so my x value is 0. You with me on that? So if I want the y-intercept occurs when x is 0. I don't have to do anything weird here. I don't have to graph this thing. I don't have to multiply things together. I just need to make x 0. So that means I can do y equals 6 times, if x is 0, that's negative 1/2. And if x is 0 there, that is 3. Okay? Everybody okay with that? The y-intercept occurs when x is 0. The x-intercept occurs when y is 0. 6 times a negative 1/2 is negative 3 times 3 is negative 9. What questions you got? Now, could I multiply it all out and graph it and do it? Sure, but you don't need to do any of that stuff. Okay? Everybody okay with that? Let me ask you another question about 17. The x-intercepts, this is already factored for you, right? Look at what's happening here. This is already factored for you, and if I was going to graph this thing, I have a y-intercept of negative 9. Okay? And this is a parabola because it would be x squared. This right here, to make that 0, if I zeroed that out, that would be a positive 1/2. So I have a positive 1/2 for an x-intercept here and a negative 3 over here. And it would look something like that. I don't have the bottom point, but those are important points as well. Did y'all understand what I was getting at there? That we can also get our x-intercepts. It's when, if I set that equal to 0, then we're 0. These are your, basically it's factored ready for you to get your x-intercepts. All right, let's look at 18. Show me your lights for 18. If your table's dark, I know what that means too. Either we didn't get to it or we have no idea. We just have dark tables. Okay. And I think some of us didn't get to them either, but all right, the area of the triangle above is 21. What is the value of x? Well, guess what you have to know here? The area formula for a triangle. Area formula for a triangle, who can tell me what that is? No. Anybody? Okay, 1/2. Then what? Base times height. Okay, so let me ask you this. Do you know what the area formula is for a rectangle? Area of a rectangle, that's base times height, right? A triangle is half of it, so that can hopefully help you remember that. But we have to know that, okay? We have to know that. And what I don't like, here's something I don't like about this picture, and the fact that it comes from College Board really kind of makes my skin crawl. But in order for it to be the height is always perpendicular to the base, and they're expecting you to assume that, which is kind of scary, but most of the time you'll see that. So that's how I know x is the height and x plus 1 is the base. All right, so be careful assuming that stuff. Again, it kind of surprises me that this came from them, but whatever. So I'm going to put this in here. So I know that the area of the triangle is equal to 1/2 times the base, which is x plus 1, times the height, which is x. Okay? And then I know the area is 21. So I'm going to get 21 equals 1/2 times x plus 1 times x. Everybody okay with that? Now, before I jump in and just start doing math, because sometimes we do that and we get a little ahead of ourselves, I could distribute that 1/2, but I would prefer not to, because then I'm going to have a lot of 1/2s along the way. And I know that fractions make your skin crawl most of the time. Over here, even though there's like lots of things, this is basically all being multiplied together, so it's all one term. I can get rid of the fraction right now by multiplying both sides by 2. You agree with that? So I'm going to do that. I'm going to multiply both sides by 2. That's going to give me 2 equals, and then I'm not going to skip a step. You could do more than one step, but I don't want to lose anybody because I don't know where we all are. Everybody with me at this point? Okay. So then I don't get to start making up math, okay? I've got to distribute that x, and I have 42 equals, when I distribute the x, again, maybe we need to do the arrows, but please just at least make sure you distribute no matter what. This is going to give me x squared plus x. Oh, no, not x squared plus x squared. X squared plus x. Everybody with me? Now, I have what kind of equation here? Starts with a q. It's a quadratic. This is a quadratic equation because I have an x squared, right? So the first thing I want to always try to do with a quadratic is factor it. And if I'm going to try to factor it, I need it set equal to 0. So I'm not going to like start subtracting and dividing and things like that. I need a set equal to 0. So I'm going to move that 42, which means I'm going to get 0 equals plus x minus 42. Then I'm going to factor it. If you know the quadratic formula and that's your favorite, I guess you could do that here too, but that would definitely not be the route I would go here. So instead, I'm going to factor. Now, I have a feeling factoring might be something some of us need to put on the back of our worksheets there, or little information sheet. A is 1, because this would be A, so I don't have to write in a 1, but it's 1 right there, right? So I can do x and x. This is negative, which means my signs are opposite. Then I need two numbers that multiply to give me a negative 42 and combine to give me a positive 1. What are they? 7 and 6. Okay. Yeah, and which one's negative? 6, 6, and 7. Okay. So now we have it factored. Now, and so this is kind of where we were here. And if I set that equal to 0, that's how I get the 1/2 and the negative 3. So here then, and again, I'm just not going to skip any steps, I would take x plus 7 and set it equal to 0, x minus 6 and set it equal to 0. So I get x equals negative 7 and x equals 6. Now, negative 7 is not even an option, but if it was, this cannot be my answer because this is a triangle and this is a length, and I'm not going to have a negative length. You with me on that? So 6 is the only one that would make sense there. So this is factoring when a is 1. If you're good at that, but let's say that I have 0 equals 3x squared minus 2. I don't even know if this factors because I'm just making it up. But if we also have to be able to factor when a is not 1, so that might be something that you need to say, I can do this one, I'm not that good at this one, or if you're not even sure yet, it's fine. We're all going to at least go over it together a little bit. I don't even know what that factors, like I said, because I just wrote it down. Any questions at this point on this one? All right, show me 19. The silence and a hush falls across the crowd. Okay. We got green, we got red, we got green. Okay. It's okay. All right. So this says, which of the following values of x, this function not defined as a real number? Okay. What would have to happen underneath that square root in order for it not to be a real number? It's a negative. Can I take the square root of 0? Yeah, and the square root of 0 is 0. That's fine. Square root of negative 1, not okay, right? So that means that I need this right here. I need 4 minus x squared to be greater than or equal to 0. We okay with that? Then I need to factor. Now, I could move something over and take the square root of both sides, but at the same time, that's probably not the best, and this is one of the special case factoring, so maybe special cases is the type of factoring you need help with. This is called a what? Somebody should be able to tell me. Somebody at that table should be able to tell me. This is a what? A what of what? Difference of squares. Okay, so is this pretty easy to factor then? Yes, if you know the rule, it's easy to factor. I get 2 minus x and 2 plus x greater than or equal to 0. Everybody with me on that? So then 2 minus x has to be greater than or equal to 0, and 2 plus x plus, oh my gosh, plus x has to be greater than or equal to 0. So that means x has to be greater than or equal to negative 2, and x has to be greater than, no, let me do that. So here I subtracted 2 from both sides. Here I'm going to add x to both sides. So I get 2 has to be greater than or equal to x. So x has to be less than 2 or greater than negative 2, which means my answer is 0. Okay? It is not 0. Hang on a second. X. It has to be greater than, x has to be less than 2. Oh my gosh. And x has to be, so x has to be less than 2 is what I'm looking at. I read it backwards in my brain. Sorry. X has to be less than or equal to negative 2. Let's make a number line. This is what I should have done for y'all anyway. So my x has, this says it has to be less than or equal to negative 2. And this says x has to be less than or equal to 2. So here's where the numbers that work. So these are the ones that don't work, and it's 4. It's a D. I'm sorry, I had a moment there. That's how you work it out algebraically. Could you kind of guess and check as well? Yes, you could guess and check. But on the SATs, some of them, they're bubble ends. They're not all multiple choice. And I need to ask about the TSIA. Has anybody taken the math TSIA just because you took it for dual credit or took it for something else? Okay. All right. We okay on 19? If you don't know what this is, like if this makes no sense to you, then put factoring special cases on the back and then. All right. Last one, 20. Yes, did I do it wrong? You think it's negative 2. Okay, so let's substitute it in. Let's see. Square root of 0 is fine. Square root of 0 is 0. You just can't have a square root of a negative number. Yeah. Because this will give you 4 minus 16, and that's what happens there. Because look, if negative 2 didn't work, then 2 wouldn't work either, because that would also give you 0. If negative 2 doesn't work, 2 wouldn't work either, because both of these, if I square them, I still get 0. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Yeah, please. And just like he did, if you think I'm wrong, please holler out, because am I wrong sometimes? Absolutely. I am not perfect. Just like I was wrong a minute ago, but I caught myself. All right. Anything else? Good questions. All right. Last one. Let me see your lights here. Okay. All right. So, if you cannot find the exact answer, like you're not 100% sure about something, it's at least helpful to narrow it down, because if you're guessing out of 2, you get a better chance than guessing out of 4, right? We don't want to have to guess, but we can at least eliminate some things. So let's read this. Lots of words. You can't let all the words make your brain shut down. All right. Under ideal conditions, the population of a certain species doubles every 9 years. If the population started with 100 individuals, which of the following expressions gives the population of the species T years after the population started, assuming that the population has been living under ideal conditions? Okay, so the first thing we want to just kind of narrow down. Is it 2 times something, or is it 100 times something? Okay. So if I've started with 100 individuals, and then in 9 years, I'm going to multiply that by 2, right? And in another 9 years, I'm going to multiply it by 2 again. And then it's going to double again, right? And it keeps doubling. That's what it's saying. You with me on that? So I can rewrite this, but this is after 27 years. I know it's not what the question's asking, but this is how we can wrap our mind around it. This is the same thing as 100 times 2 to the third power. So thinking about it that way, just breaking it down, you can think, okay, it's the 2 that's being taken to the exponent, not the 100. You with me on that? So now I've eliminated those 2, and I got a 50-50 shot just by wrapping my mind around what's happening. Do you understand why it's that and why the 100 doesn't? Ask me a question. Do you understand what I just did and why? Okay. So let me back up. I have 100 individuals, right? In 9 years, it doubles every 9 years. So this is 9 years. I'm going to multiply it by 2. And then in another 9 years, I multiply it by 2. In another 9 years, I multiply it by 2. Oh, guys, I'm sorry. I thought we got out of here at 55. No wonder y'all were squirming and getting set up. All right. We'll start here tomorrow, and then we got something else to do. So keep that stuff. I'll take it all from you tomorrow.